This is the Vauxhall Grandland X, which sits at the top of Vauxhall's SUV family tree above the Crossland X and the Mokka X. But when it comes to mid-sized family SUVs, the market is saturated and car makers increasingly have to offer something special in order to stand out. And it's competing for buyers with cars like the Mazda CX-5, the Hyundai Tucson and a real car buyer favourite, the Peugeot 3008. So does it have what it takes? Now, at first glance, despite sharing much of its mechanics with the Peugeot 3008, a car we like for its individuality, it looks fairly generic and probably wouldn't warrant a second glance if one passed you by. And the rest of the package is also fairly run-of-the-mill. You do get the high driving position, the good view and the practicality that SUV buyers like, but it's all delivered in a rather bland package. And sadly, it doesn't get any more exciting here in the driver's seat. Look, it's well built, it's very functional, but everything from the quality of the graphics on the infotainment screen to the buttons and the dials to just the whole layout and look and feel just feels very old-fashioned and rather uninspiring. Look, it is fully connected as you'd expect these days, whether that's to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, a USB lead or Wi-Fi, which is part of Vauxhall's OnStar service, a call centre staffed by advisors who can do things like book hotels or parking for you before sending the details to your sat-nav. But probably its best feature is its ability to alert the emergency services if it senses that the car's airbags have been deployed. And another safety feature that I really like is the way that the current speed limits are displayed here on a digital dial, which is obtained by scanning the road signs, and it then asks you if you'd like to set the car to that particular limit. It's a really smart feature and it's available on all the models across the range. Now, Vauxhall has a reputation for rather confusing trim levels, and although the Grandland X is offered with 5, fewer than those available for the Corsa or Astra, a slightly strange quirk exists in the range. SE trim includes a 7-inch infotainment screen without sat-nav, but for about £100 less you can get Techline Nav trim, which just brings a better infotainment system, sat-nav, 18-inch instead of 17-inch alloys, all-round instead of just rear parking sensors, along with some extra safety kit, including lane keeping assistance and autonomous emergency braking, making it our choice. When it comes to practicality, well, it's not that great. The glove box is a strange size, not really that usable, as are the door bins and also the cup holders, which again are a kind of funny shape and they're not big enough basically. There's a little storage compartment in there with the power outlets, which is quite useful. And in this central one beneath the armrest, you'll find a wireless charging point, which is useful if you have a phone that works with it. The boot, as you'd expect from a family SUV, is a good size. It's larger than the boot of the Nissan Qashqai and Renault Kadjar, although the Peugeot 3008 is more versatile. But you can add a versatility pack, which adds split folding rear seats and a split level boot floor, and dropping the rear seats gives you a completely flat load area. Here in the back, it's light and it's airy with excellent headroom and legroom, unless you're the person sitting in the middle, and then this rather protruding centre console means that you don't get much knee room. However, there isn't a transmission tunnel down there, so the floor is nice and flat. But the reality is that this centre seat is best suited to children. And when it comes to children, you've got a couple of Isofix child seat points. Although curiously, for a family SUV, the rear doors just don't open that wide, so getting them in and out is a bit of a palaver. The influence of the Peugeot 3008 is really seen in the engine range, with the addition of Peugeot's 1.2-litre 3-cylinder petrol engine with 128 brake horsepower, which is a smooth, punchy little engine which delivers far more than its modest output would suggest. There are 2 diesels on offer alongside it, a 1.6-litre diesel with 118 brake horsepower, alongside a 2-litre diesel which is only available in the top of the range Ultimate trim. And whilst there's a manual and automatic gearbox on offer, the 2-litre diesel is only offered with the automatic. It won't be a surprise to learn that there's no option of 4-wheel drive. Instead, Vauxhall offer a system called IntelliGrip, which is basically a traction control system for the front wheels with different driving modes for snow, sand and mud. Now, you're not going to be able to venture over any rough stuff, but let's face it, few SUV owners have any desire to do that. And the system will cope fine with the muddy fields and snowy roads that it's more likely to encounter. Of course, not having the weight of a four-wheel drive system also has a positive impact on your fuel economy. This model has the 1.6 litre diesel engine, which promises impressive economy, around 70 miles to the gallon, although we've only been getting closer to 47. So one of the plus points is that the engine is a good performer. It's reasonably quiet and is happy right throughout the range with enough power down in the lower gears. What lets it down though is the gearbox. It's paired with a 6-speed manual gearbox, which, like so much else about the Grandland, does the job but isn't that great. You know, it's not particularly smooth. Actually, it's got quite a notchy, awkward shift. The steering is also just fine. You know, it's light and responsive, which does make it easy to drive around town, but it isn't particularly direct. And when you add into the equation the fact that it's got a really fidgety ride, you certainly wouldn't call this a fun or an engaging car to drive. However, it does fare well when it comes to safety, with a full 5-star rating from Euro NCAP's tougher testing procedures, thanks to safety equipment like lane departure warning and rear parking sensors on all cars, plus autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitors and lane assist, which actively steers you back into lane if you wander near a white line. Overall, the Grandland X is fine, but you have to remember that this is a very late arrival to a crowded marketplace, and I don't think it feels special enough. It's also worth remembering that it's only a few £100s less than its far more desirable stablemate, the Peugeot 3008.